Well, this is a culmination of three and a bit years of endeavor from a whole team of people, a whole team of talented people here at Lucid. We set out to create the very best SUV in the whole damn world. Well, we built Lucid and really came out with the brand and the first car in 2016. And we had a clear mission. We wanted to advance the state of the art of the EV. While others just doing EVs for the sake of it, they're just jumping on a bandwagon. We were never about that. We wanted to really move the needle technologically. I think many people have driven EVs that frankly suck. I know because I drive all the competition. So I think that the American public has been ill-served by underwhelming EVs. I think most people who've experienced a Lucid Air realize just how good it is. I think the same is going to be true of Gravity, and you don't have to compromise. You can have range and performance, you can have space and ride comfort, and you can have dynamic handling experience. Hi, I'm Peter Rawlinson, and this is Cars and Culture with Jason Stein.
Peter, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. We have plenty to talk about, including your news actually just out today. But first and foremost, appreciate you being on Cars and Culture.
Great to be here.
So let's talk about what is in the background of your image, I guess, to start off. And also big news today in terms of a pricing announcement for the Lucid Gravity. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me how much it means to you, and then we'll get into a little bit more on why and how.
Well, this is a culmination of three and a bit years of endeavor from a whole team of people, a whole team of talented people here at Lucid. We set out to create the very best SUV in the whole damn world, and I think we're very close to
Wonderful.
seeing that now. It has an unprecedented uh, um, a combination of relatively disparate attributes. It's got incredible dynamic handling. It's got great performance. It's got great practicality. It's a seven-seater for adults. It's not a 2+5 where you can get two kids in the back. You can get people 6'4" in the back in the third row. So it's genuine seven-seater. In terms of leg room, it's more spacious than a Suburban, and it's only about 2 inches longer than a Lucid Air. And we anticipate over 440 miles range. And I just think it's only achievable because of the incredible technology that we developed here from scratch, groundbreaking technology with our miniaturized powertrain and the ultra efficient technologies, which means we can travel with further with less batteries. And this means there's more space for people's feet and comfort and things like that. There's less weight in the vehicle, but moreover, there's less use of the world's precious mineral resources, and actually, it means less use of electricity because it's more efficient. So every journey you take, you draw less power from the grid, which is often overlooked and very much central to the sustainability message.
This, by the way, orders open November 7th for the vehicle. It is so critical for you, Peter, to have this model uh, uh, launching at this time for so many reasons, but it really addresses the need for a consumer that does in fact want more room with all of the same, you mentioned it, technological advances that already occur on the air, but just talk about it from a demographic standpoint, if you don't mind, and the build up to actually releasing this and then finally it being here.
Yeah, I mean, we know that the market, particularly here in the US and to a certain degree in other markets, is moving um, sort of irrepressibly towards that of SUVs. So this makes a huge difference for us as a company. We have potentially six times the addressable market that we have for Lucid Air. And our business is all about scale, achieving economy of scale, partly through scale itself. And this is a key enabler on our journey. And we're also just over 2 years away from the start of production of the midsize program. and that's our more affordable car, which will give us true scale as a company. So this is a long-term value play, and we're on that journey. We've been investing very heavily for the future. We're on the cusp of completing phase two of our state-of-the-art factory in Arizona. We just put in an additional nearly 3 million square feet. We've bought stamping in-house. We've built a true state-of-the-art integrated electric powertrain plant right in the heart of that building. And we synced that with start of production for Gravity, which is the SUV behind me, scheduled for start of production late this year.
And with startup production, I think the plan here is to ramp up gradually through 25, you have said, with
Absolutely.
it really starting to get a good run rate into 26. That's when you want the highest volume,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, what's really important is that we launch really gradually and get the quality right, particularly through the early part of next year, and it will just grow relentlessly in volume through late 25 into 26. So we're gonna have a relatively slow start in Q1 of 25, just because the quality is all important.
Some analysts have said already today, gravity is going to help propel Lucid out of the red. Do you agree with that notion?
It's, you know, it's certainly a step towards that. We're making great moves with, as I say, it's all about economy of scale. We've come off the back of a third successive record quarter of deliveries of Lucid Air. We delivered nearly 2,800 in Q3. So that's helping. We're assiduously chasing costs, particularly in the manufacturing operation. And our new plant will help that both for logistics, inbound logistics, and process costs. Ironing out some quality um, uh, man hours in the plant that will help again. But gravity is another stepping stone towards being free cash flow positive.
You came out with pricing as well today. $94,000 before shipping is what you announced. When can we expect some other trim levels? Because of course, it's not uncommon for most automakers to come out with the highest trim first, but what will follow?
Yeah, well, we've promised that the car will be from less than 80,000, just as we promised that Air would be from less than 70,000. We kept our promise with the Air Pure. And the great news here is that we're going to achieve that $79,900 landmark price, not with a pure edition of Gravity, but with Touring. We're going to start with Grand Touring because we feel there's such latent demand for that. And you want to put your best foot forward. You want to put a higher margin vehicle forward from a business standpoint, and then bring out touring, make touring available. And we're scheduling that for late 2025. But right now, we're opening orders on November the 7th for Grand Touring.
This program focuses as much on culture as it does cars. The people who we interview. I want to talk to you a little bit about culture and the culture of Lucid, just to give listeners a bit of a window into exactly what that is. What was it when you set out on the mission? What is it today internally, and also what is it externally? What does Lucid mean?
Mm. Well, we built Lucid and really came out with the brand and the first car in 2016. And we had a clear mission. We wanted to advance the state of the art of the EV. While others just doing EVs for the sake of it, they're just jumping on a bandwagon. We were never about that. We wanted to really move the needle technologically. And we really wanted to break the paradigm that range was just a function of how many batteries you stuffed in the car. There was a kind of an unwritten rule. If you want to double the range, you just double the number of batteries in the car, stuff them in. And this is what I call dumb range. So we challenged that. We said, what if we could create a more efficient electric motor? What if we could re-engineer the inverter, the motor controller? What if we went to ultra high voltage? What if we went and reduced all the energy losses from inside the cells, from the trail of the electrons when you get them out of the cell through all the wiring, through the inverter to create the alternating current to drive the motor around. Heat is the enemy of that. Every electron needs to create rotary motion to burn rubber on the road. That's allowed, burning rubber on the road. We want every electron to burn rubber on the road, not to be dissipated in heat in the system. Heat is the enemy. And so we challenged everything, all known notions. We effectively reinvented the electric motor, and we've heavily patented that, and we build it in-house in our plant in Arizona. We have revolutionary technology in our inverter, even our drive unit. Our transmission unit is unprecedented. We have a differential that rotates within the motor at motor speed. It's a low torque, high rev differential. This is a revolutionary technology, and collectively, we're able to travel more miles for any given amount of electricity than anyone else. And we can measure that. There's a tangible measure. The Lucid Air Pure rear-wheel drive achieves 5 miles for every kilowatt hour of electrical energy. And this is better than anyone else. It's a record holding 146 miles per gallon E equivalent. And this is with a relatively luxuriously large car that we're achieving this. And this is a landmark. That means that any journey you take from A to B, with just out of the shops, if you're on your commute or you go on vacation, using less energy to go from A to B than any other car in production today. And this is of a paramount importance to the environment, and it's also of paramount importance in advancing the the market for EVs, because what the EVs faced, I mean, when you look back in 2016 when we started this mission, there were two fundamental barriers to wider spread adoption of EVs. One was range anxiety. We've knocked that on the head when we launched Lucid Air back in 21. We launched with up to 520 miles range. And even today, 3 years on, no competitor is within 100 miles of our range that we achieved back then. But more significantly was the way we did that. We did that without just stuffing loads of batteries into the car. We did it with the in-house advanced technology. That means that now, with a pure rear-wheel drive, we've got 420 miles range, and we achieve that with only 84 kilowatt hours of battery pack capacity. And that means much less use on dependence upon the precious mineral resources of the earth, such as lithium, nickel, and cobalt, and less draw of electricity from the grid. And we're advancing this further. We have a Mission 6 project, a research project within the company that I have kicked off. And we're seeing, can we get to the magic 6 miles per kilowatt hour? And that would have a real profound impact upon the cost and affordability of EVs, because the cost structure of an EV is dominated by the cost of the battery. And if we can make an EV which goes further with less battery, we can make it also an EV which has got competitive range with much less battery and therefore much less cost. And that means that the market for EV adoption can broaden, and that's fundamentally necessary for the planet.
Is there a perception problem around EVs in the American market right
Oh,
now?
yes. Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised. It's not perception, it's reality. I think many people have driven EVs that frankly suck. I know because I drive all the competition. So I think that the American public has been ill served by underwhelming EVs. Um, I think most people who've experienced a Lucid Air realize just how good it is. I think the same is going to be true of Gravity. And you don't have to compromise. You can have range and performance. You can have space and ride comfort, and you can have dynamic handling experience. So if you like driving fast cars, or you just like lounging in a luxury limousine, and you don't have to have range anxiety because you've got over 500 miles range. Even today with our Grand Touring is 512. Again, no one's within 100 miles of us. I think more people should experience what a state of the art EV should experience really is, because it's markedly superior to a gasoline alternative, and Don't get me started about hybrids because they're the worst of all worlds.
Yeah, I've heard you say that. There's been a regression, you said recently, to hybrids.
It's true.
And what is it that what do you make of the of what I would term the pendulum that has swung? That if we go back 2 or 3 years, every North American-based automaker was proclaiming that it was moving toward an all EV lineup. And 3 years later, well, those plans are delayed, and well, the customer doesn't want it, and there's range anxiety. What do you make of that complete shift
Yeah. Yeah.
has occurred? They just haven't driven enough Lucids,
No, well, that's part of the reason. But the reality is, so from the customer perspective, they haven't driven and experienced a true high-tech, state-of-the-art EV like a Lucid, and
right?
it is absolutely an amazing driving experience. Um, And
I
that's
know
not
that.
saying it.
I've
I
been
mean,
in.
I'm the guy who had a Lotus when I was 21 years old. So, I'm kind of a petrol head. I guess I'm an electron head now. I've become. Now I've crossed the great divide. But no, seriously, it is an immeasurably superior experience. I think that, and it's easy to generalize here, but I think that what's lacking and what's driving some of those commercial decisions from some of those automakers is that they're still working in this false paradigm that range is just a function of battery size. And we've just broken that mold. We've said, no, we don't, we challenge that. This is range as a function of technology. We want to go further with less batteries. So let's just look at Gravity, Lucid Gravity, which is about to come out. We pretty confident we haven't got the EPA range rating yet. We're still waiting that from the EPA, but we're projecting it will exceed 440 miles range. It's got the same sort of battery architecture that you see in our Grand Touring. So it's around about 120 kilowatt hour pack size. We're going to disclose exactly. Now that's about half the battery pack size for a very similar range from some of the Detroit products that we're seeing today. So if you look at, 120 kilowatt hour difference in pack size, Bloomberg attributes $128 cost to the automaker for a kilowatt hour of battery pack. So if your pack is 100 kilowatt hours more than a competitor, you're having to put $12,800 more into your bill cost. But there's a greater amount than that. We've probably got about $15,000 advantage over some of those automakers. And we can pass that on to the customer and make the product not only superior because it's lighter, not just superior because there's less batteries, so there's more room for your feet and it's more comfortable, there's more leg room. The car's more dynamic, it's more agile, and it costs us up to $15,000 potentially less to manufacture in the first place and pass that on to the customer. And that's the difference between what I call dumb range, just stuffing in batteries, and smart range, which is a high-tech, science-based solution, which we've applied.
Is that because most, well, I'll call them traditional automakers because they've been around longer than a decade or two, but because they've known a certain propulsion system and they are now dabbling in a different propulsion system and have had to become experts, where this is the only thing that you're focusing on?
I think that's partly true. I think what we've done is we've turned the car into a science project,
Hmm.
realize that. So we've reached for the stars with the science project, but we've been pragmatic enough to say, like, right, I wouldn't say pencils down, I'd say computer mice down. Now we're going to build the damn thing and put it in production, which we did, because that's there's a tension between that. You can embark upon a never-ending research project which never realizes production. So you need to balance that scientific approach, first principles of laws of physics, and as computer simulation with an inherent pragmatism and realism and business reality. Right, we could make this perfect, but we're going to go into production with what we've got, and then we refine it. Now, I think that is at odds with most traditional automakers We talk about, the Germans call it Entwicklung, which means development, engineering Entwicklung, the development program. And we often talk about engineering development as distinct from design, which is the studio. And I hate this word because it is developmental. And what we did with Air, and before that, when I was chief engineer at Tesla, when we did the Model S, very similar approach, turned Model S into a science project with deep computer simulation, very much driven by the laws of physics. And we took it to another step with Lucid Air. Model S is fundamentally an 400 volt architecture. Lucid Air is a 900 volt architecture. That's the step that, 12 years on, we were able to do. Um, I think it's that difference of approach that we made our products science projects, whereas a lot of the competition, it's a developmental exercise. Now, another factor is very interesting to note how many of the traditional OEs actually use bought in drive units and motors. If you look at the Grande German marks, a number of them don't actually make their own motors and drive units. They buy them in from people like Valeo Siemens, uh,
Suppliers. Yeah.
suppliers, Magneti Marelli. We said, right, well, we're going to be vertically integrated in our motor and inverter systems, not because we're arrogant, not because it's cool to be vertically integrated. There was a profound logic to that. We felt that nothing on the market was closely good enough, and we felt that we could create a more advanced technology in-house. We've proven that, and the only people we could entrust to manufacture that was us. So
Mm.
we took the decision to make all our electric powertrain system, a battery, motor, inverter, transmission, and all the softwares in-house, and the Wunderbox, multi-purpose box, all in-house. That complete integrated synergistic system is manufactured, vertically integrated in our factory in Arizona.
You talked, Peter, a little bit about your history. I'd like to delve even a little further. You mentioned the vehicle you owned at age 21. You were destined to be a car guy. Is this correct?
Well, no, not really. It's very interesting. When I was in my teens, I just loved making things, anything, and I don't know, I could have been an architect or a naval architect or a boat designer or something like that. I was quite interested in aircraft, and
You're an
I didn't.
engineering mind.
Yeah, yeah. So I was very sort of three-dimensionally creative, and it was only by chance actually. Uh, yeah, I was just completing my mechanical engineering degree when I got really interested in cars, and so I've done cars all my career from then.
But why?
Graduated when I was 21, and I've just done cars ever since.
But why the interest in cars? And if it wasn't cars, would it have been naval engineering or boat engineering or
Could have been. I mean, it's a lot of making things. I built my own house when I was in my 20s. I took a year out of my career and did that. And I've done big. Built my barn, big woodwork. I love doing that kind of thing in England. And the house I did was in Wales. I built my own car, which really started this adventure. I built my own sports car because I wanted to have my own little car company in a very small way. And that led to me actually being picked up by Lotus Engineering, became chief engineer of advanced engineering. And my tenure at Lotus, because Lotus is an engineering consulting company, won me a contract in America. I came out and to California for the very first time, got to know people there, and people got to know me. So when Tesla was looking for an engineer to lead their new uh, Model S program, my name came up as a recommendation. They reached out to me. They had to find out where I was first, and I got the job. So that's how I'm here. And actually, Lucid, to be fair, it's very much a natural progression from the work that I did at Tesla. A lot of my Tesla Model S team came across and joined me here at Lucid, and really, it was the reputation of what we did there enabled us to be investable as an entity at Lucid, because without the great partnership and support from the Public Investment Fund, none of this would be possible. I wouldn't be speaking to you today. We wouldn't have the best cars in the world today. We wouldn't have this uh, ready for start of production imminently. It would just be a pipe dream. We wouldn't be having this conversation, and no one would have believed it's possible. So this is the result of that strong partnership that we have with Saudi Arabia.
Your experience you described when you first joined at Tesla, cutting edge development,
Mm.
the most advanced technology with a clarity of vision and purpose and an
Mhm.
absolute singularity of mindset.
Right.
Is that right?
That's absolutely, absolutely. It was very clear. Um, my boss created the financial environment and sense of purpose and mission for me to really deliver the best engineering, and that was the synergy.
It's not like that anymore, you said.
Well, it's kind of lost its sense of direction, hasn't it? Or he has. I think that we've shown that we have taken the mantle now in terms of technology. I mean, if you look at what we've done on Lucid Air, we've got the most efficient car in the world, 5 miles per kilowatt hour. That's so important. That's not some semantics of an engineer creating some esoteric attribute that's of no use to mankind. It is absolutely fundamental to this mission that we travel further with less energy. It's about transporting mankind with a sustainable mobility model. And we do that through engineering research and proper science with proper scientists, turning it into a science-based program, only limited by the laws of physics. And we've taken the mantle for that. We've also got the most aerodynamic car in the world, CD's 0.197. We've got the fastest charging car in the world. We can get around 200 miles in about 12 minutes. We can get 300 miles in about 21 minutes. No one else is even close. We've got the longest range car. We have the longest range car 3 years ago. No one's ever surpassed it. We've got the highest performance true production car in the world in Sapphire. Um, that does a standing quarter in 8.9. 0 to 60 is under 1.9 seconds, about 1.89. So all these attributes with just one vehicle. And now we bring out Gravity, which is, I think, is a game changer. True seven-seater, true mid 400 miles range, and a great handling, dynamic driving machine. And I think it's just going to change people's view of what they can expect from an SUV. And that's very important. We'll attract more and more people to sustainable mobility. And then we go for the big one, which is our Tesla Model 3, Model Y competitor, our mid-size platform. That's our world platform, and that's scheduled for start of production late 26.
And at that point, you'll be going head to head with a model that's 48 to $50,000.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
that's right. 48 to $50,000 with today's prices.
Multiple vehicles planned too.
That's right. Yeah, more than one.
You're coming off three consecutive quarters of record sales. Some people wouldn't know you're outselling all the facing competitors in the US, according to Cox Automotive. That includes the Model S,
Mhm.
which you engineered, the Taycan, the EQS, the i7, the e-tron GT. So the runway appears to be opening for you to some extent. And now you have product that's coming.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is just brand recognition. I think
Yeah, it's
more
marketing, isn't it?
a lot of it's marketing. We excel at engineering things. We're learning how to market.
Hmm. So how do you need to market? What's your
Oh,
recommendation on
well,
marketing better?
yeah, it takes time. I'm learning how long it takes. Oh man, yeah, a brand isn't built Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Um,
it is recognition, right? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think, I was talking to a well-known journalist just very recently. It was his first experience in a Lucid Air, and I was surprised by that. And a lot of people, even people following this trend, haven't really experienced the car. So I think there's a lot of educating to be done and awareness to be gained. And I think that that's what's limiting our volume. It's not being our ability to produce. It's our ability to capture that market. Although we're outselling the grande marks already.
The Chinese, you have said that affordable EVs are needed in order to compete with China, where EVs are flourishing with the help of government incentives.
Mm.
Uh, are the Chinese, when you look at Chinese products in other markets, are they light years ahead of where we are in North America?
Well, yeah, some ways yes, and some ways surprisingly not. I mean, it's an uneven playing field. They're certainly heavily subsidized by central government. And I
Hmm.
think the Chinese do have a fundamental advantage because when the government says go, they all go in the same direction instead of arguing with each other. I think this is a sort of the curse of the Western world right now. There's a sense of there's a sense of urgency and unity and unquestioning direction that you get in that culture, which we lack here in the West. But they've moved on immeasurably in terms of many of their attributes. Uh, I think they're really world leading in terms of LFP cell chemistry, and some of the user interface is amazing how they insert the cars, situational awareness in ADAS within a 3D map environment. Very impressed with that, and we want to get to that very soon. So they're ahead of us at the moment in that. I'd say they're still behind in terms of the core EV powertrain technology, but don't underestimate them.
Mm. No, no, for sure. Um, when you look at some technology that I think, and the way you've tried to position Lucid, is there the possibility for you to sign more agreements like the one that you did with Aston Martin in order to build battery modules and drive units complete with motors and inverters and transmissions for shipment to other brands?
Yeah, well, I'd like to very much do that, and we're currently in discussions with more than one OE about such matters. I've stated that our technology is available. It's available for hire, as it were, and I think the world needs it. I think there's a timescale associated with this. The deal we struck with Aston was great because that really propels them into a true electric future. Uh, and, I see this as the icing on the cake. The core is our own products. And then if we can attract such partnerships in the future, I see that as an absolute bonus and a win-win. It's a win-win for them as well. Um, and of course, there is a timescale associated with such a deal. Um, it needs to make sense for the larger partner to recognize the value proposition and also to recognize just how special the technology we've developed is and just how damn difficult it is to get here. This is the result of 9 years of endeavor from Lucid. 10 years ago, when I had the vision that we could really make a better, more efficient EV and just re-engineer these core systems, which were almost given. They were a given. You couldn't improve electric motor. It's already better than a gasoline. You couldn't miniaturize it because it's already super small. And the whole miniaturization thing that we've achieved, no one else is even close to this. And I think there's a fundamental lack of understanding of how damn difficult it is. I mean, if it was easy, other people would do it, and they haven't.
Lessons learned for you on this journey that you just described?
Man, just it's
Maybe
sheer
too German.
tenacity. No, it's tenacity.
Tenacity. Yeah.
It's just you're just
Entrepreneurial tenacity.
well, yeah. I mean, yes, it is. Yes, you just never say never. You never know the turns that the road has ahead for you, and just keep going. I think that I want to really emphasize just what a huge team effort this is. The key is and I mean, this applies to anything in life, I guess, career-wise, is to surround yourself with brilliant people. And that's what I've tried to do. I've tried to attract the best brains I possibly can from around the planet. And And if you set a sufficiently bold objective and mission, it's amazing how that's attractive to people with great talent. It's a very synergist between the need to attract and the scale and ambition that you set. It's almost a self-fulfilling loop that if you aim for mediocrity, that's where you'll get. If you aim for the stars, that will attract stars, and they will help propel you there. So we aim to create, and I know it sounded preposterous because I mean, the company I joined, I've been here 12 years, had about 19 people when I arrived. We
Mm.
had no technology, and we turned it around, decided to create Lucid a few years later, and and to make the best car in the world. And at that stage, before we got the funding from the Public Investment Fund, and they were had great foresight, very deeply analytical about their approach to investment. Um, they had faith that we had something. They could see we had something very special. But we were down to about 150 people. I was down to about maybe 80, 90 engineers, and we were going to out-engineer Porsche and Mercedes. That's pretty crazy. And, the result is a car that really is, I think, is right up there. And I think most people would agree. But it
Has it
came
ch-
from that. Yeah.
has it changed you?
Um, it's hard to say. I mean, I always wanted to do a car company. This is the closest I get, I guess. It all started with me wanting to have my own little car company in a very humble way, and it's ended up here. But I didn't plan for. All I wanted to do was engineer great cars, and it's kind of it's led to me sort of taking the helm because I felt that was the most likely way that I could engineer my dream was to take the leadership job, which would enable that dream to happen. I couldn't entrust it with anyone else.
It's no different. We've had Henrik Fisker on this program.
Oh, yes, I know Henry well. Yeah.
Yes, of course. And I've talked to RJ Scaringe before.
And RJ as well, yes.
Yeah, there's a cadre of individuals who are very like-minded and like-focused who want to all do the same thing at this time in this industry.
Yeah, yeah. It's exciting, isn't it? Mm.
It's a pivot point for the industry, isn't it? I mean, they always talk about pivot points in the industry. It seems there's always another pivot point around the corner, but this one actually feels like it's legitimate.
I think so. I think that uh, it's an exciting time, but I think that we've got to be careful here because, I mean, there are lots of startups which, unless you're doing something truly different and moving the plot on, you you've got to be careful about the value proposition of that. What Tesla did was something very, very advanced for its period and really moved the plot on technically and technologically. Model S was a landmark product. Everything about it was very original, and it really was world leading. And it becomes incrementally more difficult to make advances because you go along that sort of latter part, more mature part of that development curve. So I think we're moving the plot on significantly here at Lucid and taking a multi-year advantage. And we, I mean, if you look at um, the technology that we have brought in, which we have developed in-house, which is absolutely genuinely done in-house and is truly moving the world forward, I think there's a huge difference here. I think that's what differentiates us. And that's where Tesla was 12 years ago.
And 12 years ago, Tesla was the fascination of or the obsession of every executive who I talked to in the Detroit market
Mm,
because they all wanted to know what Elon Musk was doing.
mm,
It
mm,
was an absolute obsession.
mm, mm, mm.
And now they're surrounded by similar minded individuals.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it certainly has paved the way. There's no question.
Hmm. EVs in 10 years, where will we be?
Mm. Well, I think BEVs of the future will have less range, paradoxically. I think right now we carry the antidote to range anxiety in range per se, in absolute range. And we don't need to do that with a more mature, more reliable, and more prolific fast charging network. I think with cell chemistries that allow faster C rates of charge rates, uh, faster charging chemistries, we'll transition our range anxiety antidote from carrying range in the car to more dependency upon a mature fast charging network where we have I don't get gasoline range anxiety. Not that I drive a gas car anymore, but I never did because I've been here long enough, Jason, to know there's a gas station on every street corner in
Right.
America.
Right.
So that's why I don't get gas car range anxiety. So why should I get electric car range anxiety if that was the case? And so and if I knew I could fill full of electrons really fast. So I think that the future lies with ultra efficient, smaller range cars. Supposing we could get our Vision 6 project become a reality that we're developing in-house, we could get 6 miles for every kilowatt hour. Okay. And supposing the range of an electric car in the future, we only need about 240 miles of range because that would be enough because most people don't need to do 240 miles in a day. And if you could charge everywhere, you're good.
True.
Well, with 6 miles per kilowatt hour and just 240-mile range, you could achieve that with a 40 kilowatt hour battery pack. 6 times 40 is 240, right? And that's 40 kilowatt hour battery pack, 40 kilowatt hour pack is relatively tiny compared with packs we use today. It could fit just comfortably under the front seats of the car, the front footwell, and be much lighter and make the car hugely more affordable with just a few $1,000s rather than tens of thousands that with packs are costing us today. And that is an advent of a whole new um, arena of mobility for mankind. That's the way I see it going. Ultra high tech, ultra efficient, much smaller batteries with just enough range. Because, I mean, there is a historical precedent here. When iPhone came out, the competitors were chasing phones with, multiple day battery life. And it was seemed heresy when iPhone came out. It was only going to last 24 hours. How will we live? Well, everybody recognized they just plug it in every night. There's no problem, is there? And why carry all those batteries around? You can have a slim phone that fits in your pocket and you just plug it in every night. So just the equivalent is with a car. You can have a small battery pack that only goes about 200 miles range. It doesn't matter because you can plug it in anywhere. And you don't have to pay crazy money. You don't have to lug all these batteries around. You don't have to have all these mines. And then the draw of electricity on the grid is far less as well. And the interesting thing is, by virtue of carrying less batteries in the car, that inherently has a multiplier effect. It actually that you create a virtuous circle. Less batteries, and you inherently become more efficient. If you add batteries, a good way of looking at it is if you add 10 batteries, you need to add an 11th. And why is that? Because you just added the weight to 10 and you've got to lug those around. You need an
Right.
11th battery to make up for the 10 you just added. So that's the vicious circle. But if you could remove 10, oh, I've removed 10, I can remove one more because that was just lugging those other 10 around.
Hmm. Final question, and first and foremost, thank you for your time. But final question, what would the kid who was building his own car think of the Lucid CEO today?
Um, What was it? The kid? I don't know. I was the kid who built my own car.
Right.
I made the tools on my lathe and milling machine to make the parts. I made the spot welding tips to weld it. I got myself a TIG welder and welded up my gasoline tank. Um, got all the parts. To this day, I've lost a lot of my sense of smell because I've done so much fiberglassing. And that's not been building Lucy's, that was building my own cars. Um, I think that reach for the stars and you never know where life will take you. But be careful what you wish for, because it's not all that much fun. Honestly, it's brutal.
Peter, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today on the program. Very much appreciated. Wish you the best of luck, and congratulations on the launch of the Gravity.
Thanks so much, Jason.
Thank you.